really the clarifiles and clarifile. Some of you may remember that I promised that I was going to give you a presentation on learning double lip to be started, a series of them actually, to be started in mid-October. Well, that hasn't happened, and it's already November 1st. But I do plan to make those videos, okay? And this is going to be the first one. We're just running a little bit behind time, which is standard operating procedure here. So what's this video going to be about? Well, what it's going to be about is making the proper preparations in the hopes of having a successful journey. Anything that you do takes some preparation. I mean, even if you just go out for lunch or a cup of coffee or go down to the supermarket or whatever, routine stuff, you have to make sure that you have what you need in order to succeed. I mean, at the very least, you have to make sure you have your car keys or enough money to take the bus or whatever. Anyway, it's the same way with the journey of playing double lip. In order to be the most successful you can be and ensure that success, you need to have a few things prepared and ready. Now, I've got a cheat sheet here with a few things so I don't forget. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about those things you need to pack in preparation for the journey. Well, there's a lot of places we could start talking about exactly what needs to be done, but let's start with the most fundamental thing. Let's start with being familiar with what a classical clarinet sound is. I get all kinds of messages from people like, I want a big sound, and yeah, I've got a centered sound, but now I want it big. Well, my advice to them is always to get a trombone. The clarinet is not a trombone, it's a clarinet. And the thing that really you're trying to achieve with double lip playing is a beautiful, centered, even, focused sound with beautiful color and matching shape throughout the register, low and high, and throughout the dynamic range, loud and soft. And double lip, I've found, is really the best way to achieve that on the clarinet, and actually you get the best results with young players and students when you get them to play that way. So I would say become familiar with the clarinet concept. Now, I've talked about this in previous videos. I'd ask you to go look at some of the videos there. Anything that you can find in the archive, we've got about, I don't know, 120, 130 videos on a clarinet playing various aspects. So you might have to weed through a few of them, but find those things. If you're confused about what the clarinet sound should be like, get on YouTube and listen to Harold Wright play the clarinet. There's no better person you can listen to play the clarinet to develop the kind of sound, beauty, and evenness and control over the dynamics and expressive phrasing than Harold Wright. So get that sound in your ear. In any case, you need a good classical concept in your ear. You need to have that inside, because if you don't have the concept inside, you know, you're not going to be able to do physically what you need to do to produce it. Okay, so that's the concept. Physically, at least in terms of hearing, what you're looking for is an even, focused sound. Focused, I'd say, is probably the sine qua non. It's like the very essence of what a beautiful clarinet sound is, classical clarinet sound is. The sound needs to be focused and clear and ringing, and that's what we're going to try to produce. So try to have that in mind so you're not surprised. Gee, I don't know. I mean, I wanted to sound, you know, like big and huge and all that. Buy a tuba, okay? This is a clarinet, and that's what we're going to be producing here, is a characteristic classical clarinet sound. So get that in your ear, start listening, and really find clarinet sounds that you really like, okay? And then the next thing, once you develop that concept, once you have that concept in your ear, then the next thing is that you know what the clarinet sound should be like. We're going to be talking about how to achieve it. And so that's going to be our next step. Well, how do we go about achieving it? And I'd say the first thing that we need to do is we need to have equipment that is going to make it easy to achieve that characteristic sound. That's coming up. In playing double lip, one of the most important things that you need is a well-made mouthpiece and a well-designed mouthpiece. Now, what do I mean by that? First of all, if you have mouthpieces that are crooked, the facings are crooked where one rail is longer than the other, I'd say you're really setting yourself up for complete failure at playing double lip. You need a symmetrically faced mouthpiece. And I'll go into why that is in the next thing we need to talk about. You need a symmetrically faced mouthpiece. Now, you don't have to have a super close facing mouthpiece, a long curve and a very close tip. You don't have to have that, but most double lip players play, I'd say, a fairly long or medium long facing and definitely a close tip. I'd say a tip under 105, 102, 101. This is going to really help you play the clarinet better, double lip. It's going to help you play in the upper register. Now, what mouthpieces am I talking about? Well, I'd say what I'm not talking about is a mouthpiece like the B45. Now, you can get it faced, so the facing is a close facing. Get somebody that's really skilled, knows what they're doing to give you a good facing. But the thing that you're going to need if you want to buy a mouthpiece off the shelf, there are some good ones. Van Doren has, like the M13. I think that's the M13, and then the 5RV Lyre is not too bad. I think it's about 105 or 106 at the tip, but anyway, if you're buying like a Van Doren mouthpiece, you can check. Because they do have a scale, you can check whether it's an open facing or a long curve or whatever. I'd say check on that. The M13 I know is good, and I don't know about the M15. I'm not sure what the facing is on that, but definitely check, because you don't want to be playing a big open facing mouthpiece. That's for sure. Now, the next thing that you're going to need. Well, let me go on. There are other mouthpieces on the market. There's the Gigliotti mouthpieces, and I'd say get the personal facing if you can find those. Those are very close mouthpieces that are very long. And there are a couple other, and the reason I'll go back to why I recommend the Gigliotti in a second. And then there's my homage mouthpiece, which is basically an homage to Harold Wright's playing. And the facing is very, very much like what Harold Wright played himself, and which leads me to the next characteristic in the mouthpiece, is you're going to want a mouthpiece that has a nice narrow chamber. Now, standard Van Doren mouthpieces do, like the Van Doren 5RV Lyre and the 5RV. Those have good narrow chambers, and so does the M13, the M models. Those are good. Now, it's important that the chambers are important, because if you get a wide chamber mouthpiece, then what's going to happen is that's going to make it very hard to really focus and concentrate the sound. You want your equipment to help you, not fight you. So if you've got a nice focused sound in your ear, then a wide open mouthpiece or a mouthpiece that has wide sidewalls, that's going to disperse the air. It's going to basically de-energize the air, and that's going to affect your ability to focus the sound. It's going to make you work much harder. You don't want to do that. My homage mouthpiece, Shedville, some Shedville mouthpieces, not all, because they're very different. Some of them are very different. Some mouthpieces like that, the Van Doren mouthpieces now, and also any old Selmer mouthpieces that you can get and get a really nice facing. I'm not sure that Selmer makes, I'm not sure Selmer makes any facings that really are conducive to double lip playing. They're either like way too close and very short, or too open and too long, or whatever. But you can get those refaced, and those are some very good. You can make very good mouthpieces out of them. They might be a little, the older, like the HS star, the HS double star, the B star, and so on. They might be a little bit sharp. Okay, that's all I can say. As far as the pitch goes, it's been a while since I've looked at those, but the Selmer mouthpieces as a blank, very, very, very good. So you don't have to spend a lot of money. Okay, you can get well-made mouthpieces that have good interior design and have relatively good pitch, and you don't have to. Don't think you've got to go on a search for the Holy Grail. You don't. A well-made mouthpiece, that's going to help you more than anything else. With a good interior design, relatively good pitch as far as high and low goes. So, okay, having said that, now the next thing, the reason I'm talking about the mouthpiece so much is because the next thing is really, really, really important. Okay, so what could be more important than mouthpieces? Well, the thing you put on that mouthpiece, and that is reeds. It's very important to be playing on well-balanced reeds all the time. That means that you need to learn what a well-balanced reed is, you need to learn how to test for it, and you need to learn how to finish reeds so that your reeds are well-balanced. If you don't have well-balanced reeds, if the reeds are not matching the facing, if one side is playing heavier than the other, it's going to mess up the response, it's going to mess up the center, and when that center is all messed up and you're playing and it's not focused like you want, what you're going to be tempted to do is crunch down and force that reed into centering the sound. That has a number of bad effects, but the one that's most important in learning how to play double lip is the bad effect of messing your lips up, cutting yourself, and that's going to make you, set you back days, okay? Because you don't want to bite down to force that reed to focus and to clarify the sound and cut the breathiness out of the sound. You've got to have a really well-balanced reed to do that, to be successful at playing, because you want your equipment to be efficient. And the more efficient that equipment is, the less you have to do behind your nose, and the less you have to work, and the more endurance you'll have. I'm sure everyone here, whether you play double lip or single lip or whatever, that if you have any experience playing the clarinet, you're going to know that a reed that plays really well, that plays easily, that responds predictably up and down the registers and the dynamic range, it's fun to play. It makes playing easier, and it increases your endurance, okay? And everyone knows here, because we've all had the experience of playing lousy reeds, how much harder it is to play those things, how much more dissatisfying they are than playing a really good reed, and how awful the results is. So you've got to learn to balance your reeds. Even if you're a single lip player, you should be playing on balanced reeds. But the reason I emphasize this playing double lip is because single lip players, because they can use more vertical force on the reed, by biting, they can force the reed into doing things that double lip players should not have to do. Anyway, if you're used to biting and just making reeds work, this is not going to fly. You've got to get yourself together, your reed working together, okay? And that's why I talked about what was required in the mouthpiece. If you're playing that crooked facing, you're not going to ever be able to balance reeds, even to a minimum standard, to properly play double lip. Y'all know what this is? You find this in the kitchen, especially when people bake cookies and stuff like that. You line the pans and everything with this. This is called parchment paper, and it is really an amazing substance, an amazing material. Now, why am I bringing paper out? Well, I'm going to do something that's going to sound completely counterintuitive. I'm going to recommend that in working on double lip, that you take some parchment paper and you take, a few layers, cut it so that it's comfortable, and take a few layers and cover your upper teeth with those layers, and even cover your lower teeth with those layers. Now, you can say, well, gee, Tom, that's going to cause you to bite and everything. No, it's not. Now, when you bring the upper lip under, even if you have this stuff, a few layers of it covering your teeth, you're not going to bite very long without being very uncomfortable. So what I'm trying to avoid here is that your initial efforts not result in you cutting your lips. Okay, if you bite and you cut your lips, then that's going to be, you're not going to, you're just going to be so discouraged, and it's going to be so painful to play that you're probably not going to be able to even think about doing that for 3 or 4 days. It's going to set you way back. Don't do that, okay? Do what you need to do. Playing a balanced reed, you're still going to learn, even if you have some covering over your teeth, upper and lower, you're still going to learn to use the principles of double lip playing correctly. Finally, I want to say a word about the necessity of properly voicing in order to center the sound. Now, a lot of people, especially single lip players, they achieve whatever focus they do and the pitch level that they do in a great extent right here in the embouchure by closing the jaw down, clamping down on the reed, and that helps them get the pitch up so the sound is not dispersed and unfocused, uncentered. That's not the way double lip works. And it shouldn't be the way that single lip works. The most important thing in terms of getting the pitch up and getting the focus up has to do with the tongue position. Now, I have some videos on this, and let me recommend that you look at that. But your tongue position should be holding a great deal of the focus and center in the sound, not the embouchure, not the jaw, certainly not the jaw, certainly not the lips in any way. The lips are basically there to seal, and you will have, playing double lip correctly with a well-balanced reed and everything, you will have basically an equal amount of sealing and pressure, if you will, on both lips, upper and lower. And what's going to be holding the sound and focusing it and making it even and everything is going to be the proper voicing, the proper tongue position. So I'm going to recommend that you look at that in the previous videos and study that, and then do some experimenting yourself about tongue position, because you're not going to get a focused sound and a sound that's even and everything, that is controlled and properly in pitch throughout the register without voicing with the tongue position. No low forward tongue position is going to work. If you're trying to play double lip, you'll end up again like really killing yourself with your embouchure trying to achieve the same kind of focus that you did playing single lip. It's not going to work, and it's not the proper way to play single lip either. Okay, I think we're done. Of course, I could do some more things, but I think this is enough for you to think about, enough to prepare for that journey we're going to go on in learning how to play double lip.